So I am in my dashboard, and if I type KMS, it turns out that it is under IAM. So IAM is to manage groups, user roles, and policies, but also at the very bottom, we see encryption keys. So this is what we haven't seen yet. So we are to the AWS Key Management Service, and we need to get started. So let's get started. As we can see, from within the console, we get the option to choose our region. Let's choose EU Paris. This is where I've been doing my tutorial. And as we can see from there, there's already 4 encryption keys that were being used. These are the AWS managed keys, because anytime we used Lambda for doing anything KMS related, it used the AWS Lambda key. Anytime we did encryption with S3 using KMS, it used the AWS S3 key. Same for RDS, same for code commits. And so anytime we'll use a service, an AWS service, and it says, okay, let's enable KMS integration, the key will appear here, and these keys are managed by KMS and AWS itself. We don't have any control over these keys. This is why we get a small logo right here, which represents AWS. Now, if we wanted, we could go ahead and create a key. So this will cost money, so don't do it if you don't want to pay $1. So we're going to create a key, and for this, I will call it tutorial key. And the alias is going to be basically a more pleasant name for our key. As the advanced options, we can say, okay, the key should be either generated by KMS or by us as an external. And this is where we import our keys. We definitely don't want to import our keys right now. That would be too much. So we'll just use KMS to generate a key for us. Next step, we can add tags. We won't. Next, we need to define who has permissions to use this key. So for now, I'll say me, I have administration power over that key, so I'll just choose myself. That makes sense. Next step, who can use this key? For now, I'll just say myself, but we'll have to authorize the Lambda function in a minute. Next, and so this is what's called a key policy, and the key policy is, from a key perspective, what and who can do key actions. So as you can see, the root account obviously can do anything to your key. And then myself, I can create, describe, enable, list, put to all these things onto the keys that was defined below. Okay, click on finish. And now we have created a tutorial key. As you can see now, we don't have the AWS logo in there because we created this key ourselves. If we click on the key, we can see that we have the key policy that we can view, the key users that we can view, and we can even add external accounts that can use that key. Finally, we could enable key rotation and make sure that this key changes every year if we had a security requirement coming from our security team. Okay, so great, we have a key, but how the hell do we use it? Well, let's go to AWS Lambda to have a small play with it. So we're in Lambda, and what I want to do is to create a function, and I will author my function from scratch. I will just call this function hello world. KMS. As a runtime, I will use Python 3.6 just to be consistent. And for this, I will create a custom role. For creating a custom role, this is going to be a Lambda role, so I can create a new IAM role. I'll call it Lambda Basic Execution KMS because this is our KMS tutorial and it's best practice to have a different role for all your Lambda functions. For the policy document, right now I'll leave it as is, but obviously we're going to have to change it. I'll click on allow, and now we have our Lambda Basic Execution KMS role. Create the function, and now congratulations, our Lambda function has been created. So what we'd like to do is to basically store a secret. So let's just say for now that we want to return something. So I'll just return hello world, and we want to basically return a secret here. So we'll have to do something. So for now, let's go down, and we have environment variables. So we want our Lambda function to have access to a secret, but we don't want to put that secret in the code because that would be really, really bad practice. Okay, if I say db password equals secret db password, that would be really, really bad because now people can see the db password straight from the code. Extremely bad. Don't do this. Okay, so we can't do this. And if I put my db password right here, so db password, and I say super secret password, then again, it's really bad because the environment variables is just like code. People can access these environment variables because they're plain text. Although something we can do is to go into encryption configuration, and here we can enable helpers for encryption in transit. And so here we go, we can click on here, and now we are able to encrypt that value. And so by encrypting that value, we'll have a much safer way of storing our environment variables. Now for the KMS key to encrypt the data at rest, you could use the AWS Lambda, but let's use the one we just created, which is called tutorial. So here I select my tutorial key, and we're good. And now what I'm going to do is to encrypt this key. So watch it, this is my super secret password. And now we click on encrypt, and nothing changes. The reason is our Lambda function currently does not have access to use this customer master key. So let's go back to IAM, and here we're going to add a key user. And here in the key user, I'm going to have to add someone. So I'll click on add, and here I can choose my hello world. I have to look at my Lambda basic execution. Oh, not there yet. Let's go back and refresh this page. And after refreshing this page, if I go back to my key user, now I click on add, I should be able to find, yes, my Lambda basic execution KMS. So I attach my role and now say, okay, this role should be able to use my key. Additionally, I go to roles and I find my Lambda basic execution KMS, and I'm going to have to create an inline policy. As a service, I will choose KMS. I'll say great. And I will say what you can do with KMS is, for now, all KMS actions, because it's fine, except maybe permissions management. So let's remove this. We'll say read, and write, but you cannot do permissions management. And then we have to choose a resource. And so for it, the resource is going to be specific. And we can say, okay, the alias that you're going to be using is going to be called tutorial. In terms of region, I will say any region, and in terms of account, I will say any account. So now we're basically giving access to our alias tutorial. Click on save and click on review policy. And here I will say the role name is KMS alias tutorial access, for the lack of a better word, and click on create policy. So now we have this policy, which is an inline policy, which is a JSON, and we can say, okay, we can do all these things, including decrypt and including encrypt, and this gives us access to the alias tutorial. Now, if we go back to the encryption key, if you remember, our encryption key, which was in the Paris region, was basically right here and had the alias tutorial. Okay, this is great. Now let's go back, click on save, refresh, just so that all the permissions get refreshed. Now we can see that the permission of our KMS function has access to, for our Lambda function has access to KMS, which is great. Let's go back, and now we can re-enable the encryption helper, and the AWS KMS key to encrypt in transit is going to be called tutorial. Now things should work. If I click on encrypt, our data has been encrypted, our secret has been encrypted. So we can't even see it anymore, which is great. This is what it's meant for. And now we have a code. And this code is going to help us decrypt the secrets. So I have to go ahead and just copy this whole thing. So I'll copy it and paste it right here. So now we have the encrypted variable, which is called our DB password, which comes from the environment variable. And we are going to decrypt it using KMS, using the decrypt call. Now this is a bit complicated, but basically here we have our DB password. So I'll say DB password equals this. And now here I'm just going to say print DB password. So it's being printed to the log and it will return hello world. The reason we have our decryption happen outside of our Lambda handler is that we don't want to decrypt every time our function gets called. We just want to decrypt once before the function starts. So that all makes sense. Let's save it and see if things worked. We're going to test this out, and I'm going to create a new event, call it test, click on create, and now test. And the execution results succeeded. We get the hello world back, but the important magic happens in the log output, and we can see here that the super secret password was decrypted by our Lambda function. But the cool thing that happened is that the password itself was encrypted as an environment variable. Obviously, you could use a CLI to do that encryption, but what I wanted to show you is that using the Lambda UI, you can also do this pretty easily. And so you can have as many encrypted secrets in here, and our Lambda function retrieves them at runtime, decrypts them, and then prints them to the console. So here we could establish a connection to a database, for example. So I hope that was more hands-on, more helpful around how KMS works, and a really, really cool integration best practice with AWS Lambda. I will see you in the next lecture.